sinister being is said to be a twisted form of a skinwalker with a hunting appearance that strikes fear into the hearts of those who dare to cross his path. The Allegheny Shadow Stalker is described as a tall, gaunt figure, cloaked in tattered black robes that seem to blend seamlessly with the shadows of the dense woodland. Its eyes glow with a malevolent light, piercing through the darkness like burning embers, and its elongated fingers end in razor-sharp claws that drip with an otherworldly darkness. This ghastly creature is rumored to make its lair deep within the heart of the Allegheny National Forest, in a hidden glen shrouded by ancient trees and veiled in perpetual twilight. The air in its domain is thick with a sense of foreboding, and the trees themselves seem to whisper warnings to all who approach, as if trying to deter them from the malevolent presence that dwells within. Legend has it that the Allegheny Shadow Stalker preys on the lost and the unsuspecting, drawing them into its realm with whispered promises of guidance and salvation. Those who fall under its spell are never seen again, their fates unknown, but their souls forever bound to the shadowy creature that haunts the depths of the forest. Despite the skepticism of outsiders and the attempts to rationalize away the tales, the legend of the Allegheny Shadow Stalker endures, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lingers in the forgotten corners of Pennsylvania's wilderness. Reminder to never go to that place in Pennsylvania. Let's see. Ow. The screen is so bright. Okay. Let's see if I can find some urban legends that I know. I'm gonna go on Wikipedia, and it's so bright. I was hoping to find some on Reddit, but they just basically make drawings of urban legends, and they don't really talk about them. Let's see. They usually just make a very small description of the legends instead of giving the full story. Okay, I'm gonna search for some comments in this Reddit r/horror. Someone asked, anybody have creepy childhood urban legends, folklore, town myth associated with where you grew up? So let's see if we can find a very big story here. will just read all of these because they're small, so I think I can cover all of them in this, and then I can start looking for some specific ones like Slender Man and other urban legends, American urban legends and European urban legends. So let's start with the Japanese urban legends. This one is called Akamanto, Red Cloak. We begin our first story in the bathroom, a seemingly popular place of Japanese urban legends. Akamanto is a male spirit who dons a red cloak and mask and is said to hunt school and public restrooms with a particular fondness for the last stall in the woman's bathroom. Once you are seated in the stall, you will hear a male voice ask if you want red or blue paper. Choose your words carefully. If you say red paper, you will meet a bloody end, and if you say blue paper, you will be suffocated to death until you are blue. If you try to confuse the spirit by asking for a different color paper, you will be dragged into hell. To avoid a brutal end at Akamanto's hand, simply refuse his offer and run. I'm basically also giving you tips on if you go to Japan and you actually hear some of these, you can know how to escape. Kuchisaki Onna, slit-mouthed woman. Anyone who is familiar with Japanese urban legends knows of the infamous yet popular Kuchisake Onna. This vengeful ghost appears as a seemingly beautiful woman who roams the streets at night. She wears a face mask and carries a concealed pair of scissors. If you are unlucky enough to meet Kuchisake Onna during a solitary stroll, she will ask you if you think she's beautiful. As with Akamanto, consider your answer like your life depends on it, since it does. If you say no, she will immediately murder you with her scissors. If you say yes, she will remove her face covering to reveal a gaping mouth that has been slit from ear to ear in a haunting smile. Then she will ask again. Say no and you die, but seek with yes and she will slit your mouth like hers. The only way to escape Kuchisake Onna is to tell her that she looks average. If you are concerned about possible encounters with Kuchisake Onna or any of the other ghouls, why not try testing your survival skills at Tokyo's top 100 house attractions? If you fail, at least it's only a game. Sounds like a good idea, actually. Teke Teke. Teke Teke is said to be the ghost of a woman or schoolgirl who fell on a railway line and was cut in half by an oncoming train. The vengeful spirit, outraged by her untimely death, now hunts urban areas and train stations at night. Since she no longer has legs, she drags herself on her hands and elbows, which produces a chilling teke teke sound. Should you encounter teke teke, run. If the malicious spirit catches you, she will slice you in half with a scythe. Although she lacks legs, she is extremely fast and has been known to keep up with cars. In some renditions of the story, she will ask you where her legs are, in which case you must reply, Meishin Expressway, in order to survive. In less hopeful interactions, your only chance of survival is to outrun her, which is completely impossible. Toire no Hanako-san. Hanako-san of the toilet. For our next story, we return to the bathroom with a legend some compare to Bloody Mary. Hanako is the spirit of a young schoolgirl who met her end in an elementary school bathroom as a result of suicide due to bullying or World War II bombings and is now said to haunt them. Many children test their wits by summoning the child spirit too slow, or choose to enter the stall, Hanako will drag you into the toilet and you'll never be seen again. Okiko doll. The legend of the Okiko doll differs from our previous stories, as the doll physically exists and resides in Maninji Temple in Hokkaido. The tale dates back to 1918 when a boy purchased a doll for his younger sister. Noting that they both had bob haircuts, the little girl was infatuated with the doll and they were inseparable. Tragically, a short time later, the girl passed away from an illness. Her family displayed the doll, named Okiko, on an altar in remembrance of their daughter and noticed that the doll's hair was growing. They concluded that their daughter's restless spirit was inhabiting the doll and eventually provided it to Manenjin Temple, where it remains today and is viewable to guests. Okiko's hair continues to grow to this day despite haircuts from the temple's priests. If you are in Hokkaido, why not stop by and observe the eerie phenomenon yourself? Hokkaido is not the only place in Japan with terrifying real-life legends. Hidden among Tokyo's advanced skyscrapers and quaint temples are some truly horrifying spots. Check out Tokyo's most haunted locations and decide for yourself if the shadows of the night live up to their reputations. The Red Room Curse. For those reading these tales on your computer, this story is for you. The Red Room Curse is an internet-focused story that starts with an ominous pop-up. The pop-up features a red screen with black text that reads, "Do you like the Red Room?" which is accompanied by a sinister pre-recorded voice asking the same question. No matter how many times you close the pop-up, it will continue to appear until the voice has finished its question. Afterward, your entire screen will turn red and become flooded with past victims' names. No one knows what happens next, but the receivers of the pop-up are always found dead, with their blood painting the walls red, creating the titular Red Room. Once you receive the pop-up, it's impossible to escape your fate. And this was the last story. Yeah, it was. Let's see if we can find more. Okay, I found another website called Japan Avenue. Let's see if they also have more Japanese urban legends. Hachishaku-sama, the 8 feet tall woman. Hachishaku-sama is a malefic entity that kidnaps children in Japan. She is recognizable by her giant size, 8 feet tall, and her long black hair. This yurei, Japanese ghost, announces its arrival by making a strange noise that sounds like pop pop pop. A young boy once had the bad luck to cross its path while playing quietly in his grandparents' garden. As he heard a mysterious sound in the distance, he noticed the gigantic figure of Hachishaku-sama. The child rushed to his grandparents and told them what he had seen. His grandparents turned pale and shook their heads. Their grandson was the victim of an evil spirit. Frightened, they decided to consult a witch. The young boy had to stay locked in his room all night, holding a scroll against him, and never opened the door to Hachishaku-sama. A little later, the boy heard the sound of pop 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 again, followed by his grandfather's voice asking him to unlock the door. He understood that it was in fact the demon and kept the door closed until 7 a.m. as he had been asked. But you don't get rid of Hachishaku-sama so easily. As a little boy was on the road accompanied by his grandparents and looked out the window, he saw the long silhouette of the demon once again. Rokubi, the long-necked creature. Beware of appearances because this creature, very seductive by day, turns into a horrible monster by night. Her neck gets longer and fans of Japanese poetry, be aware of an urban legend that says that whoever reads these lines aloud will die. It is about a poem by Yomota Yunohiko called Domino's Hell, which evokes the condemnation of a young boy who committed atrocious acts. Somewhat creepy, all of that. In brief, a murderous poem that is best left unspoken. The Japanese horror legend echoes Gloomy Sunday, a famous Japanese song that caused a wave of suicide in the 1930s. Hitobashira, the human sacrifice of Maruoka Castle. Did you know that in Japan, human sacrifice was practiced until the 17th century in order to preserve buildings from natural disasters? People were buried alive or even walled up near bridges, temples, or castles as offering to the kami. This rite was called Hitobashira, human pillar. Oshizu was unfortunately one of them. The Maruoka Castle was built in the Sengoku period and was an important monument in Japan. However, the keep always collapsed. It was necessary to find a way to stabilize the foundations. That's when the idea of adding a human pillar came up. A woman named Oshizu agreed to be walled up alive in exchange for making her son a samurai. Only the promise was not kept. Her tears have flooded the castle moat every year since. Kiyotaki, the legend of the cursed tunnel. This horror story is a very popular one in Japan and is about a haunted tunnel. The underground passage connecting Arashiyama to Sagakiyotaki was founded in the early 19th century under atrocious conditions. Many workers are said to have died of accidents or exhaustion during its construction. It is therefore not surprising that lost souls are hunting the place. It is said that a white lady or other ghosts causing traffic accidents might be encountered in the tunnel. Moreover, the Kiyotaki Tunnel is 444 meters long, and remember, the number 4 is cursed in the archipelago. So, if you happen to drive through this corridor of darkness, be careful while driving. Kozu, or Cow's Head, the terrorizing story. If one does not exactly know the content of this story, it is better not to tell it at the risk of being condemned to die. Okay. Should I? I don't know. I get scared of these things, but if the person wrote it, then I guess it's fine. Gosu is an evil spirit with the appearance of a cow head. During a school trip, a teacher, not knowing how to calm his dissipated students, had the bad idea of telling this horror legend. Okay. I'm scared. Let's leave the guy alone. Even though it's a Japanese one, I don't want to bother them, and I respect them, so it's fine. Inunaki Village, a cursed place without faith or law. Ever heard of the legend of the ghost village in Fukuoka Prefecture, completely isolated from civilization? In Inunaki, no law is applied, as the sign at the entrance can attest. Thus, in the midst of murders and barbarism, chaos reigns. There is also a rumor that electrical appliances do not work in this mysterious place. The urban legend of the Inunaki village has never been verified, as no one ever returns from this cursed place. However, it is known that the village has gradually become depopulated due to urbanization. Aokigahara, the suicide forest. Probably the most haunted place in Japan, Aokigahara is a vast forest located at the bottom of the famous Mount Fuji, sent on a lava flow dating from the 9th century. It is populated by many conifers. It is known as the Sea of Trees, or Jukai in Japanese. Very dark and dense, people say that whoever ventures into this mass of vegetation does not come out. Indeed, it is easy to get lost, especially since the forest covers 35 kilometers. Moreover, it is tragically reputed for its numerous suicides. Okay, I found one that actually has urban legends that are creepypastas, and when I was young, around 13, 14 years old, I was obsessed with creepypastas, so I feel like to bring my nostalgia back, I will read some of these creepypastas that are considered urban legends nonetheless. So, we are going to start with, I was going to start with Jeff the Killer, but this one has a lot of pages, but everyone knows that Jeff the Killer was the very popular guy that some girls seem for even nowadays, that had the slit mouth and was pale and looked very goth. But I want to find some more shorter ones, so I'm going to start with Bloody Mary. She lived deep in the forest in a tiny cottage and sold herbal remedies for a living. By the way, this story is on Wattpad by CRZYMELSS. So I think it's supposed to be like Crazy Mouse or something, but without the A. Folks living in the town nearby called her Bloody Mary and said she was a witch. Nobody dared to cross the old crone for fear that their cows would go dry, their storage food rot away before winter, their children go sick with the fever, or any number of terrible things that an angry witch could do to the neighbors. Then the little girls in the village began to disappear one by one. No one could find out where they had gone. Grief-stricken families searched the woods, the local buildings, and all the houses and barns, but there was no sign of the missing girls. A few brave people even went to Bloody Mary's home in the woods to see if the witch had taken the girls, but she denied any knowledge of the disappearances. The people noticed that her haggard appearance had changed. She looked younger, more attractive. The neighbors were suspicious, but they could find no proof that the witch had taken their young ones. Then came the night when the daughter of the miller rose from her bed and walked outside, following an enchanted sound no one else could hear. The miller's wife had a toothache and was sitting in the kitchen treating the tooth with a herbal remedy when her daughter left the house. She screamed for her husband and followed the girl out of the door. The miller came running in his nightshirt. Together they tried to restrain the girl, but she kept breaking away from them and heading out of town. The desperate cries of the miller and his wife woke the neighbors. They came to assist the renting couple. Suddenly, a sharp-eyed farmer gave a shout and pointed towards a strange light at the end of the woods. A few townsmen followed him out into the field and saw Bloody Mary standing beside a large oak tree, holding a magic wand that was pointed towards the miller's house. She was glowing with an utterly light as she set her evil spell upon the miller's daughter. The townsmen grabbed their guns and their big pitchforks and ran towards the witch. When she heard the commotion, Bloody Mary broke off her spell and fled back into the woods. The far-sighted farmer had loaded his gun with silver bullets in case the witch ever came after his daughter. Now, he took aim and shot at her. The bullet hit Bloody Mary in the hip and she fell on the ground. The angry townsmen leapt upon her and carried her back into the field, where they built a huge bonfire and burned her at the stake. As she burned, Bloody Mary screamed a curse at the villagers. If anyone mentioned her name aloud before a mirror, she would send her spirit to revenge herself upon them for her terrible death. When she was dead, the villagers went to the house in the woods and found the unmarked graves of the little girls the evil witch had murdered. She had used their blood to make her young again. From that day to this, anyone foolish enough to chant Bloody Mary's name 3 times before a darkened mirror will summon the vengeful spirit of the witch. It is said that she will tear their bodies to pieces and rip their souls from their mutilated bodies. The souls of these Pokemon's was burned and they will be trapped forever in the mirror. I actually never did that, even when I was younger, because I was too scared. As I said, I respect these kind of things. Oh, this one is big, but I'm really interested because it's Pokemon related, so I'm gonna read this one as well. It's called Pokemon Lost Silver. Minding you that all of these stories from Wattpad that I'm reading right now are from the same creator, so I don't need to say her name again. You see, I'm a simple college student living alone in an apartment. I was very enthusiastic about the release of Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver here in the States. I have purposely locked myself out of all media in the internet aside from school purposes. That means no 4chan, no /v/ no Bulbapedia, etc. As I was busy with the school year and being poor at the time, I wasn't able to buy Soul Silver on its launch date. After my school year ended, I ordered Soul Silver on Amazon. However, it would take a week for it to arrive. I decided that during that time I would replay my crystal version on my Game Boy Color. However, I realized that long ago my mom threw it away because I told her the save went dead, and I was very upset about it then. She also threw away my silver version, so all I have is my Game Boy Color. As such, I set out to the game shop and bought a used silver version, as it's the only Pokemon game left that they have for the GBC. $10, fairly cheap. I went home and started it up for a nostalgia trip. However, that's where things started getting bizarre, and most likely the reason why you are reading this. The Game Freak logo started up as normal, but it just froze there. I thought the card was just errored or something, so I turned it off and on. The same thing happened. I tried pressing A and start over and over, and all of the buttons eventually. The logo vanished and there was a black screen for about 5 seconds. Suddenly, rather than going to the usual menu screen, I was already in the game in a previous saved file. Usual menu screen, I was already in the game. Oh, sorry. In a previous saved file, which was odd as I was expecting all of these cards to have been wiped by the poor battery. Either way, I wasn't complaining, as I would have chosen the continue option to see what the previous guy did anyways. First off, I checked his trainer information. His name was just ... He didn't have much originality. I checked his profile and apparently he had 999.99 hours put into the game with all 16 patches. 99999.9 Pokédollars and all 251 Pokemon on the Pokédex. Seeing as he apparently had Mew and Celebi logged also, I'm guessing he either used the game Genie or was a really hardcore Pokemon player back then. I checked his Pokemon to see what a badass team he has. To my surprise, I saw 5 unknowns and a 6th Pokemon named Hurry. I'm thinking that this must be some cruel joke by the person who last played this game, but I decided to check the profiles of those Pokemon anyways. As expected, they were different letters of unknown, all level 5. I was a bit shaky with my unknown alphabet at the time, but I identified the word spelled out to be leave. As for the 6th Pokemon, it turned out to be a Cyndaquil. Mind you, this is before there were individualized Pokemon icons. The Cyndaquil looked normal, but it was level 5 with only 1 HP left, with only 2 attacks, Leer and Flash. I don't know why they named him Hurry, but at the time, I just disregarded it. The most eerie thing was that despite my volume being at max, none of the Pokemon he had said their usual cries, just pure silence. Having enough of the team, I closed it. I was part NPCs around. Even more eerie was that the pillar in the middle didn't move at all, as it was just leaning on its side. There was no music at all, and there was no exit or ladder, or at least I thought there wasn't. Having enough of the team, I closed it. I was parked at what appeared to be a room. Oh, I already read that. I'm sorry. Reading ASMR sometimes makes me really sleepy. So, let's keep going. I walked around for a few minutes but couldn't find a way out. This was certainly not a room I've seen in Bellsprout Tower before. I've tried checking my items for an escape rope, but the bag was completely empty. There wasn't any wild Pokemon either. Finally, I managed to find a ladder, which turned out to be behind the pillar. The screen turned black and the music finally started playing. I had a sudden chill as I recognized that melody I heard to be the theme you hear when you listen to the radio at the Alph ruins where the unknown are at. I immediately realized that it wasn't a loading transition, but rather I was in a dark room and would need flash. Before I took care of that, though, I immediately checked my Poke Gear to change the radio to something more pleasant, but it turns out that there was no radio card or even a phone nor time cards. There was only a map card in which Gold from earlier, and I will call him Gold from now on, was just walking in a midst of black. I recall that Cyndaquil has flash, so I turned off my Poke Gear and made Cyndaquil use flash. I didn't see any message saying hurry as use flash or anything like that. The room just became lit just like that, and I soon regretted it. The room was a chilling blood red with a linear gray path heading south. The ladder I used to go up, down, was not there at all. I had no choice but to head south. The screen got darker every 20 steps I made until I finally made it to the end, which appeared to have a sign. I read the sign, which said turn back now. Suddenly, I was asked to answer yes or no, but there was no question asked. I chose yes, as I do not know what it was asking, and the screen went black again, making a ladder climbed sound. The no radio music stopped, and in a few seconds was replaced with the not as creepy Pokeflute radio music. I was in another dark room, but I held my breath and used flash again. Suddenly, it said that Hurry has fainted, which was odd since I recalled that there was no status condition like poison on him, and I clearly wasn't in a battle. I checked my Pokemon quickly and suddenly he's no longer in my party. In fact, after a bit of investigating, none of my Pokemon are there, but instead all replaced with level 10 unknown. I did the same thing as before and spelled out the unknown. My then team of unknowns spelled he died. Either way, after that creepy change, the room was lit to reveal myself in a very small room that appears to be only 4 squares big. The walls of that room were grey bricks, as if I was inside something that was hollowed out. Outside that room appears to be a bunch of graves similar to the ones in Pokemon Red Blue. I walked around that small room and pressed A, but nothing happened. I've already concluded that this was clearly a hacked game and some sadistic fuck sold it to GameStop. However, my curiosity kept me going. I checked the trainer profile of again, only to find that the sprite of Gold was missing his arms. He also seems to appear less smug, but rather seems more sad and empty in a way that I do not know how to describe. For some reason, it also now said that he has 24 patches, which was clearly impossible. After a few minutes of aimless wandering, my character suddenly spun and did the escape rope spinning animation instead of flying up. Though my character spun downward slowly, as if sinking. After that screen, the music stopped. After finally landing, the overworld sprite of Gold is colored differently now. Instead of the usual red color he dons, he appears completely white now, including his skin. It's as if he came straight from the colorless Game Boy games placed into a colored background of the Game Boy Color. I checked his profile and now, while now is a white as his overworld sprite, he lost across his legs and has what appears to be bloody tears from his eyes. It also says he now has 32 patches, which now starts to disturb me as this change of numbers seems to represent something important. I also checked my Pokemon, which this time contains 5 unknowns, and had a level 100 Celebi without a nickname. The unknown are this time level 15 and spelled out dying. I checked the Celebi's profile. It was a shiny Celebi, except there's only half of the sprite, one leg, one arm, one eye. It only has one attack, Perish Song. The area I was in itself was the Sprout Tower with the immobile Polaris before, except everything is apparently red now. I walked north for what felt like forever. Eventually, I finally encountered some generic men and women NPC. They were all lined up to the side, just facing the long, slantish pillar in the middle. They are also white, and nothing happens when I try to speak to them. I kept on going north until eventually the pillar finally appears, chopped off with the transparent red in that spot. I went up to the red, and without even pressing I was suddenly engaged and finally in a battle. The music starts again, which sounds like a non-radio music again, but played backwards. Gold's battleback sprite matches his front one with the bloody eyes, white skin and lack of arms, while Red sprite was the same as before in GSC except transparent. The text simply said wants the battle, as if he has no name, and both of us only have one Pokemon each, which is weird as I swore I had 6 with the unknowns. My shiny Celebi came out conveniently with half a sprite for the back sprite also. The shiny noise and animation was different as the sounds it made sounded like multiple screech attacks used consecutively. Red sent out a seemingly normal male Pikachu, except it's level 255, and his sprite seems sad and has tears in his eyes. Rather than the usual fight item, Picky MN, run menu, I was only given the options to use the attacks. Since Celebi only has one, I chose it. Naturally, since Pikachu was level 255, he went first. Pikachu used Curse, lowering his speed and increasing his other stats. I'm not even sure if Pikachu could use Curse. Celebi used the Perish Song. In 3 turns, both Pokemon get KO'd, not like I have a choice. At this point, I didn't even go back to the fight menu as the battle just continued without me. Also note that there were no animations at all for some reason. Pikachu used Flail, which didn't do much damage despite his level and boost as his health was maxed. Celebi used Perish Song. Nothing happens if it was already used. Pikachu used Frustration, which did a shit ton of damage, knocking Celebi down to less than 10 HP. Celebi used Pain Split, which surprised me as Celebi didn't even have that attack in the first place. Now Celebi and Pikachu have about 150 HP. Pikachu used Mean Look, not like that did anything. As expected, due to the effects of Perish Song, my Celebi fainted, except in the text it said, Celebi has died. Instead of the ordinary drop off the screen animation, the Celebi back sprite just vanished. For some reason the Pikachu was still up, even with Perish Song, and it didn't count as my loss. Pikachu used one more different attack beyond the 5 attack limit. Pikachu used Destiny Bond. Afterwards it said Pikachu has died with a slow fade out animation. Apparently I was the winner as a transparent red sprite showed up and said a bunch of dots. At that point I just freaked out, as that transparent red sprite was suddenly beheaded, leaving nothing but his transparent body. The battle then ended at that point and faded out along with the music. I'm back in the overworld with another change to the gold sprite. He's now as transparent as Red's overworld sprite. I quickly checked Gold's profile, where this time the only thing remains of him is his head with a transparent skin. The head was zoomed in a bit, showing a black void in his eyes. It now stated that he now has 40 patches. I then backed out and music playing, but for some reason I still felt like something was there that could be heard. I was back in my room in New Park Town. Maybe finally I get to play this game properly, but who am I kidding? I knew that sadistic fuck must have done something. I walked around my room to interact with things as I'm a bit afraid to go down the stairs to see what was awaiting down there. Note I said walked, as while the background was moving, Gold was not moving his transparent limbs at all while doing so, just floating like those ghosts you see in Diamond Pearl. As expected, the radio, computer, and TV did not work, so I had no choice but to go down the stairs. I ended up in the same lower level room of my house. Everything appears normal except Mom isn't home. After failing to interact with anything in this room, I decide to go outside. To my surprise, that door leading outside at the south didn't work, and instead I just walked straight through it to a void. I continued moving south to see what the fuck was going on. My house vanished as I head south into the void. It was creepy, as when I entered the void, the outline on Gold's transparent sprite turned white to contrast with pitch black. Eventually I reached a white area and Gold's sprite turned black and transparent again. I continued south without thinking of stopping at all. After a long trek south, I finally encountered something. It was Gold's regular sprite. I talked to it. He said, "Goodbye forever," notably with a space in between forever and vanished. As that happened, it said, question mark, use nightmare, which at that point I would not deny that being possible. Gold did another escape rope, animation spinning slowly downwards like before. I'm now back into that small hollowed out room surrounded by graves earlier. Or at least I say I was back there, as there's no sprite anymore. I tried to walk around but nothing moved, not even wall bumping noise. I checked my trainer profile with absolutely no Gold sprite left. It said I have 0 badge, and all the pictures of the Johto gym leaders at the bottom were replaced with skulls. I checked my Pokemon, which were all level 25 unknown as expected. It spelled out a phrase that I dared to read: "I'm dead." As soon as I went back to the overworld, the room I supposedly was in was then covered with the same blocks as the walls. I then figured out what exactly that room was when the final text was said, "R.I.P." That room was a big grave surrounded by other graves. Gold has already been dead. He died presumably a few years after he defeated Red. He was a young trainer who, despite his efforts in collecting so many badges and attempts at becoming a Pokemon master, was still unable to avoid the inevitable fate of death, and his efforts were eventually forgotten by the next generation. I wasn't able to escape from that text no matter what I pressed. I tried resetting the game, and the same thing happened, at which I then finally decided to give up on that horrible nightmare. After that experience, I will never look at the gimmick unknown the same way again. They say that only the first generation have folk tales and legends, but the second generation have shown me how unpleasant the truth can be. I eventually enjoyed Soul Silver immensely, but I still can't unthink what that rigged game has told me. Thank goodness I always bought my games from stores and never used games or something, because I would actually just quit the game in the middle because I would be too scared to play it. Let's see. Okay, this one's very big. Okay, this one is really short, so I'm going to read this one. That is called Call Me Tomorrow, okay? Still no messages on my phone. I guess he wasn't going to call me back after all. I can't really blame him. Maybe I came on a bit too fast yesterday. I had noticed him long before he noticed me. His shiny black hair and a natural blue eyes. I wasn't the only one watching him, that's for sure. His movements were elegant, in a boyish way, and his smile, I would die for that smile. Still no messages. I thought about calling him, maybe apologize for going too fast yesterday. I'm a coward, I know, but I just couldn't bring myself to dial his number. Besides, he'd promised he'd contact me when he's ready, so I'll wait. I'm patient. I know, I'll just casually stroll past his house just to see if he's home. Maybe he's out. That would explain why he couldn't call me yet. He only lives half an hour away anyway. Maybe he's shy and he's scared to call me. Silly boy. I'll go to him and tell him that he doesn't have to be scared, that I don't mind if he needs time. He lives pretty secluded in a farm on the outskirts of town. I can hear the sheep in the stables as I approach. My heart skips when I see there's light burning inside. He must be there. He told me yesterday his parents would be gone for the weekend. They left him to look after the sheep for those days. Poor baby, that must be hard work. He was probably just too busy to call me. I'll have to stay here until his parents come back and help him take care of all those sheep. I knock on the door, but he doesn't answer. Maybe he fell asleep. The thought of his beautiful face, even more softened by sleep, makes me smile. I try the door. It's unlocked. There's hardly any crime around here, so I guess locking the door is not needed. I try to be as quiet as possible as I sneak through the house. I want to surprise him. I cringe at every creak the stairs make as I climb them. Finally, I reach the bedroom and I carefully open the door. There he is, lying in his bed as I thought. Quietly, I switch on the night light on his desk so I can see his face. His blue eyes are open, staring into space, and his whole face is one bloody mess. His cheeks have been carved, the skin mostly removed and hanging loose on the sides of the face. He's missing his fingernails, they are laid out on the bed, carefully arranged. On his bare chest, words are carved. I look at him, my hands covering my mouth. He's still the same as I left him yesterday. He must have been so tired that he slept all day. How cute! I softly kiss his forehead, making sure I don't wake him. Then I write another message below the one on his chest, letting him know I'm here when he needs me. I leave the room, heading back outside. I think it's time for the sheep to go to sleep, and tomorrow I'll introduce myself to his parents. I'm sure they'll love me too. Did I just read a yandere story? Because I'm pretty sure I just did. That's crazy. Even the comments, they're like, what the actual F is this? Okay, I'm gonna finish this for today, and tomorrow, I don't know if I'll make another ASMR stream, but I'll make sure to post at least 3 or 4 ASMR streams next week, and make sure to check my YouTube channel because this will be there and you can go back and re-listen to this ASMR. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you enjoy these types of videos, don't forget to follow me on my YouTube. And if you want to be here at the exact moment that I'm doing the live, you can also go on my Twitch and follow my channel. We are very close to becoming an affiliate so that I can share my emotes that I've created with a lot of love and care from all of my followers. And you can also follow me on my other social media, Instagram and Twitter. And if you even want, you can be part of my Discord. I always post